You've got him here. You can recognize him with those roses, Jim Rutledge, if you didn't know. Jim, thank you very much for being here.
Great to be back at the brand new library again.
You know how much we love your bourbons. Um, I guess you've got to do something. You've got something to do with it. But most importantly, because we know quite a bit of it. Remember this episode of the BrandLibrary.tv with Al Young, where we learned a lot there. Now we need to go into different directions here. What's new at Four Roses?
Well, I can't say that anything is really new. Every year we do something new. During the year we distill and we age separately 10 recipes with our 2 mash bills and 5 proprietary yeast cultures. New at Four Roses this year, we've just recently been named for our 2012 limited edition small batch. I was just recently named by Whiskey Advocate magazine, John Hansel, as the best whiskey of the world for 2012. Very exciting for us. Tremendously appreciate the recognition and the honor. And it's ironic. It was just been about a week, maybe 10 days ago. Just selected the recipe that we'll use for 2013. I believe you may have met our quality manager when you were in Kentucky, Brent Elliott, and we evaluated separately. We started off a couple weeks before we made the final selection with about, I can't remember, it was 44, 46 candidates. We narrowed that down to 6 or 7. We narrowed those down to 2. I finally had to take a 100 milliliter bottle of each one of the 2 candidates home on a Thursday night, and I think it was Saturday. I ran out of bourbon. It started. They were so close.
So what are you?
It was amazing. Oh, no, the sample. We didn't run out of bourbon. We just ran out that sample that I had.
Right, but then if you
well, it was close. It was a virtual toss-up, but I finally leaned toward one sample. Brent had selected the same sample, and I asked him what he thought of it. He said, "I think it's better than 2012." I said, "So do I." I said, "Hands down, it's the best bourbon we've ever put in a bottle." And it's amazing. That's my taste. My sense of smell and taste are different than yours. You might like something different than me, and totally understood. But in my estimation, my opinion, and also Brent's, that it is at what you will see in the limited edition 2013 small batch comes out this September is absolutely amazing.
So you got to be on the lookout for that September. But are we going to get some in New York, or will it vanish in the hands of the lucky few before that?
That's the nice part about being the distiller. Talk to somebody in sales.
He doesn't have to worry about that. I'm sure that every once in a while you've got people coming to you and say, "Well, look, Mr. Master Distiller, I've got this old bottle of Four Roses that my great uncle bought in Japan many, many years ago. Let's taste it together. Is it similar that what you're making today? Is there a big difference? Say from 30 years back."
To me, no. And my philosophy has been, if what we're doing today is not better than what we were doing 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and I've been in the position as master distiller since the beginning of '95. But I've always felt if we're not getting better all the time, I'm not doing the job. I should be replaced. We're still not driving Model T Fords. We get better every year. And that can be applied to any industry and any product. And I feel that way about our bourbon. So I would say, I'm not saying it wouldn't be good, but I'm saying it's not going to be the same 30 years ago as it is today, and we should be a lot better today. And I would say the same thing about something we distilled and aged 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. But what about those people who say, "Well, I got lucky enough to find those few very old bottles of other brands, doesn't matter. And the whiskey was so good. I wish I could find that bourbon again." Was there a specific way, say 40 years ago, that nobody is doing now because science brought knowledge, because there are mistakes we don't do anymore, and yet maybe that taste 40 years later?
I think we're better today, and a lot of people may like what we did. You know Chuck Cowdery?
Right.
He sent me a sample of something that was very old, and he said this. He asked the same question, and he said, "Why can't we do this today?" I'm not saying we can't, but there's a couple things now. You know, maybe it's the same distillery, but I doubt if the bottles that he was able to acquire of this old bourbon, that if he got another case of that from 6 months before or 6 months after that, or a year difference, that it would be the same either. Every barrel in inventory is going to have its own fingerprint of flavor. And so is this barrel that those cases were achieved, filled from, is that different from something over here? Absolutely, in the same distillery. I think we're more refined today. I've tasted a lot of the old bourbon. To me, they might taste good, be unusual. I often find something that, say, was distilled or bottled in the 50s or 60s, perhaps. It's very high in fusel oil, and something that we wouldn't approve for what we get in, put in a bottle today. And it's something, it's a matter of preference, a matter of taste, and you know, what's right or wrong, that's in the eyes of the beholder. What you like and what you don't like is up to the customers and what they happen to like.
But then, certainly, if we like the Four Roses as we find them now, if we find it very elegant, always quite subtle, with a great depth, but always elegance, is that because you rectify it quite high enough, because there's no fusel oil? Because is it distilled at...
I'm not saying there's no fusel oil.
But not the amount.
It doesn't dominate.
Right.
You know, on beer still distillation, we start out, bourbon is a two-step distillation process. I'm talking about the major distilleries now. I'm not talking about the craft distilleries and the pot stills.
Right.
And we have the beer still, and then we have a doubler, which is actually a pot still. Now, we don't make heads and tails cuts.
No, you just take it where you want it to be.
What do you mean by taking it where you want?
Meaning at the strength that...
Okay, exactly. Right. Now, we take ours off the beer still about 65%, plus or minus just a little bit. We increase that about 5% off the doubler.
With the doubler.
So we're talking about close to 130 proof and 138 to 140 proof off the doubler. And that's a strength we want. We also do some things that are different. But also in the process of bourbon, if you want something, you know, it's really good, and the end, you're fighting an uphill battle that you'll never win unless you start off with the best raw materials. And it goes back to the grain selection, the grain approvals. And that is, it's not just, too many people focus on distillation. Distillation is the tail end of the process. You can mess something up by distilling it wrong, but you can't start off with something that wasn't done right to begin with the grains, with the milling, with the fermentation, with the yeast. If it wasn't done right up front, you can't correct it in distillation.
But then let's talk about the corn. What about this debate on GMO versus non-GMO? In the end, does it make a difference on taste, or is it just a question of ethics?
It does not make a difference on taste. It's a perception. You say, yeah, does it make a difference on taste or ethics? It does not alter the taste, and it's the perception of ethics. That's what really counts. Okay, so the majority of our business is still in the international markets, still close to 90%, although the U.S. market is growing dramatically right now. But so it's very important for us, and fortunately we've been using the same source of farmers now. We're in our 53rd year in 2013 of using the same source of farmers that grow our corn in south central Indiana. And we've done this for so long to get the best of the best crops. We actually pay a premium. Yellow corn number 2, it's a dent corn that is used for the bourbon making process, is listed in the Wall Street Journal. we go in, rather than negotiate something lower because of millions of bushels that are purchased annually by the business, we pay a premium to get the best of their crops. Not all the crops, but the best of their crops. And because of that loyalty for so many years, we are still able now to get GMO-free corn. Don't know how long this can last because the GMO-free growing parts of the country are just shrinking. It will soon, there won't be a choice soon. But right now we're paying, again, this premium to get the best of the crops, and we're also paying additional to get GMO-free corn. And we also have to, if you have an area like this that we're getting GMO-free corn grown, we also have to have a buffer zone, pay people not to grow corn around it because of cross-pollination. It's very expensive, and it's not going to go on forever. How long? I hope we can do it another 3 years or 5 years or longer, but it could be over in a year or two. But the impact is negative on the taste and the flavor, and chemically is not harmful.
Do you mind if we have a bit of that? Or do you want water, ice with it? It's the barrel strength of this best stuff.
I don't need anything with that. A glass.
That's good to know that
that's
you drink out of the bottle. I mean, in some circumstances.
That's amazing. That's our 2012.
But to me, this is where the bourbon industry has been leading to for the last few years. You would, well, a few years ago, you would not even find Four Roses.
Not in the U.S.
Oh,
you can find it. We did not disappear from Europe and Asia, but our bourbon disappeared from the U.S. But Seagram had a blended whiskey with our name on the bottle. Looks similar to our bottle right here, but instead of bourbon, it said premium. It was a blended whiskey rather than the bourbon.
But now, not only this is a small batch, one of the very best values you can find on the market. But this is also a limited edition, the 2012 release, and a barrel strength.
Right.
So I have the feeling that the bourbon business has been going into more and more and more specialization. It's ultra premiumized. Will people still be able to buy great bourbon, but for $20 a bottle in 10 years?
I think so. There are some. There's small. There's some brands with limited quantities, limited number of bottles that were produced, and they're going to. It's supply and demand, and the demand is so much greater than the supply. It drives the price up.
Are you working at capacity now at the distillery?
No. We have additional capacity. And it will be probably not in my time in the industry or my lifetime that we have to upgrade the distillery. Now, we may have to build down the road some new warehouses, but I don't think so. Probably not in my time, because we have sufficient capacity right now.
Here's a problem that we have here at Brandy Library. I'm sure it happens at your place. You want to have your bourbon like that because it smells so good, because it is so intense. But then 55.7% alcohol by volume. So we always tell people to go little by little and to get their palate ready for it. May that take a lot of homework, that's fine. If I put ice in it, if I put water in it, don't I ruin it a little bit? All that.
It makes it different again. I don't think it ruins it. It's just whether it be a Scotch or an Irish, or Japanese or American bourbon or American rye, that little drop of just a splash of cold water. Cold water works far better than room temperature water. If you don't have cold water, I'd rather use a very small ice cube. But I'd go through the smelling, the tasting, the mouthfeel, the finish. Then right at the end, I might just add just a little bit and just watch it change. Watch the flavor just blossom. And again, it's a matter of preference. I may like it like this, but I also want to see what that water, that little ice does to it.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.